Hello and welcome back to the Potentia podcast. I'm your favorite host, Chelsea Talksauer, and today we're looking at what's on my radar. Catching up on what's been going on this summer, lots of news in the world of China, AI, technology, and global affairs. Let's go. First on our radar is going to be news from the FCC and Pentagon. Right before the beginning of summer, the Pentagon issued a blacklist on Alibaba and BYD from defense contracts. This resulted in many lobby firms dropping the companies from their client lists. The Chinese giant responded by suing the US government later that June. And then Alibaba got some bit of a reprieve on the lobbying ban when a federal judge ordered the Pentagon to give Alibaba Group Holding a reprieve from the law that caused all of the lobbies to drop it as a client. That is the first thing that we saw in a slew of actions coming from the U.S. government towards China. Next, on July 23rd, 2026, the U.S. Trade Representative took action at President Trump's direction under Section 301 of the Trade Act of 1974 by imposing tariffs on 60 economies for their failure to impose and effectively enforce a prohibition on the importation of goods produced with forced labor. Now, although this was impacting various economies ranging from 10% to 12.5%, including different countries such as Argentina, Bangladesh, Cambodia, allies such as the European Union, Taiwan, Japan, South Korea, and Switzerland. There was some talk that this was targeted towards China. If we take a brief snapshot of the history of this, they began in 2018 after a U.S. investigation found China guilty of unfair technology and intellectual property practices, covered 4 main product lists while carrying extra duties from 7.5% to 25%. And this was maintained and expanded over both the Trump and Biden administrations. And then following that, in July, the FCC last month barred Chinese imports of new humanoid and quadrupled robots and connected power inverters. Now, with China controlling 80% of production, this is arguably targeted at China. The chair of the U.S. Federal Communications Commission, Brendan Carr, said on Thursday that the restrictions of these imports of Chinese robots and power inverters are aimed at quickly spurring U.S. production and addressing national security. There was also word on the ground. The Trump administration is reportedly laying the groundwork to ban a Chinese-made component from data centers amid growing concerns that this dependence on China could pose risks to the security of America's AI, the artificial intelligence infrastructure. The specific part that we're talking about is imports of optical transceivers. These are devices that transmit data over fiber optic cables inside sprawling data centers. Reuters cited 4 people familiar with the matter saying that the FCC could still modify or abandon the reported restrictions. So let's go a little deeper. What are optical transceivers? Optical transceivers are a core part of modern communications networks, from Ethernet systems to long-distance telecommunications. They convert electric signals into pulses of light and back again to transmit vast amounts of data through fiber optic cables. These transceivers have become increasingly important inside data centers, AI data centers, where they provide the high-speed optical links connecting thousands of AI chips necessary to process enormous data sets and train large language models like ChatGPT and Claude. Trump is seeking to mitigate over-reliance on China. As some analysts have noted, China has already demonstrated its willingness to leverage its dominance over rare earth minerals critical for everything from smartphones to electric vehicles to fighter aircraft and missile systems during last year's trade tensions. Seeing what happened here, the Trump administration wants to alleviate the risk that this could be used against the United States in the future. At the same time, this ban could come at a cost where we don't necessarily have the supply chains in place for these optical wires, at least in the short term. Following the slew of actions the U.S. has taken against China, China just announced countermeasures against Washington, including controls on drone exports to the U.S., as well as a ban on dealing with 6 American entities in response to these recent restrictions imposed by Washington. Tensions are simmering between the U.S. and China. We have also seen tensions in dealings with Pete Hegseth, as well as purportedly stalling a proposed visit by the U.S. Undersecretary of Defense for Policy, Eldridge Colby. He's been wanting to speak at one of the Chinese defense academies, and with these tensions, that does not seem to be an option for Beijing. Then, in the world of Silicon Valley and the technology giants, OpenAI is filing a motion to dismiss Apple's lawsuit accusing OpenAI of stealing trade secrets and information, saying that Apple's allegations are meritless and the workers acted lawfully. Meanwhile, Apple is doubling down on its lawsuit. Then, in the realm of data centers, we saw moratoriums enacted in New York. Kevin Xu has a wonderful data moratorium list. I will also link that in the comments if you want to have a visual map representing what is going on in terms of proposals, moratoriums, pauses, as well as rejection. Specifically, we're finding that many of the data center construction is moving westward into areas that have ample land, where the land is cheaper and renewable energy or fossil fuel pairing is more accessible. There is major backlash in the United States against AI overall, whereas in China, we do see more protections of society. There were rules applied by the Chinese government saying that companies could not fire workers, replacing them with AI. Whereas in the United States, we had all of these hyperscalers as well as CEOs, venture capital firms really pushing for AI application and diffusion across organizations. We still see that now, but we don't see the same protections for workers in that regard. So there's the question of, okay, are we going to upskill? How will the workforce evolve? And this is causing real concerns for the American public with not the same social security net as other countries perhaps have. Now, we don't want to remove the potential of AI. The companies that are going to adopt it will see results over time. Right now, the main applications of AI are going to be for things that are very software, coding, computer-face interfaces. If you want to be building applications, things that don't necessarily rely on the truthful and accurate nature of information. If you're going to use AI, agentic AI agents to build something, you're going to have them run tests and verify that what they're building works and it either comes back as successful or not. If it's something that's more information-based, there is still more art and data consumption and training that these models need. There is a lot of work by companies like Mercer who are hiring analysts to fill these roles and essentially train their replacements. The other piece of news on my radar, not something that has been announced officially, but there is gossip on the ground. There were also just meetings in New York, and this hasn't been officially announced. This is just gossip based off of things I'm hearing in the ether. But there may be an announcement coming as OpenAI is seeking to move away from Microsoft and potentially form some business partnership with AWS or Amazon. So keep your ears to the ground. Maybe we'll hear something there. Better costs and partnership. Additionally, SpaceX and Tesla are planning to initially invest $16.8 billion to build Terrafab in Grimes County, Texas. There was also the OpenAI Hugging Face breach that went on, which involved AI agents creating internal message board unnoticed by the humans where they shared exploits and planned the hacks. OpenAI has warned that these autonomous hacks are a watershed moment in the development of AI. 17 hours as of recording this podcast, Meta has become the latest firm to say its AI has also hacked another company. So first we had Anthropic, then we had OpenAI, now we have Meta. So this is going to be a fascinating case to see how these companies deal with these and the evolution of AI. In terms of hiring, some of the trends we're seeing is hiring for data centers, hiring for geopolitical professionals across the board, whether we're talking about technology companies, the new departments under the government. We are seeing hiring for chiefs of staff, narrative engineers, technical analysts, and the geopolitical risk and the governance issues. That is going to be a trend that we see continuing into 2027. The other thing that we're going to be seeing is experiments in the application of AI for the workplace. I know that I've introduced AI into my own workflows. I'll make more videos on it. And there are proper ways where you can use AI to help with structure as well as framing, but you can't necessarily use it to help in discernment or decision making, which is where we get a lot of AI slop. And then the last thing on my radar, just something fun for summer, is this Instagram and online personality that I found named Alex Chidley Utley. And she is a folklorist and writer specializing in British folklore. It's very fun to explore the ideas of where we came from, what beliefs have got us here, how we can learn about the history and the things around us. So I will include some links to her work here where she talks about different historical spots, different historical people, and what it means for us now. We see a resurgence in interest of these types of things. I think perhaps as we are seeking to make sense, we just saw the Odyssey blow up in terms of its production and reception globally. We have more episodes coming up. That's it for what's on my radar. Make sure to stay tuned for more as we continue to explore the hidden determinants of power. We have lots of fun episodes coming up, technical experts, and lots of events coming up in the autumn-winter season. Make sure to follow and more soon.